In the annals of ancient history, few events rival the mystique and enduring significance surrounding the Battle of Thermopylae. 300 Spartan warriors, like an unyielding wall, stood against countless hordes of Persian invaders. This battle is forever etched in humanity's memory as a symbol of unparalleled bravery and self-sacrifice. However, from a purely military strategic perspective, the battle brought no tangible advantages and failed to instantly turn the tide of the war. Despite the defenders' extraordinary resilience and heroism, holding out until their last breath, Persian forces ultimately managed to breach the narrow pass. The path to Athens lay open, leading to the tragic burning of the ancient city. The true value of Thermopylae lies on an entirely different plane, and it is this profound reason that secured the battle's place among the most pivotal episodes of antiquity. This engagement served as a catalyst for profound shifts in the Hellene self-perception, fundamentally altering their understanding of themselves and their place in the world. At that fateful hour, when the Persian threat loomed over the peninsula, a unified state, known today as Greece, did not yet exist. Instead, there was a colorful patchwork of independent city-states, or polis, which, despite sharing language and faith, were often locked in irreconcilable enmity. For many of these disparate Hellenic communities, internal strife and mutual animosity were far more palpable than an ephemeral sense of kinship with their linguistic and religious neighbors. Some even viewed the mighty Persian Empire not as an enemy, but as a potential ally or patron, whose interests might align with their own, contrasting them with the interests of other Hellenic cities. It was within this complex context that the Battle of Thermopylae acquired an entirely different, truly fateful significance, one that merits the closest attention. Unlike Spartan women, who possessed a degree of independence, Athenian women were denied the right to own property or manage their own households, placing them in a dependent position. Furthermore, a significant portion of this renowned city-state's population consisted of foreign slaves, whose labor, though not marked by the brutality characteristic of the Spartans' treatment of helots, was an integral part of the Athenian economy. Yet, in the face of the looming Persian threat, even long-standing antagonists like Sparta and Athens managed to set aside their differences and unite their efforts. Sparta contributed its diplomacy and military might, while Athens provided its formidable fleet and strategic thinking. In this alliance, Athens and Sparta stood in defense of liberty and against Persian domination. Nevertheless, their understanding of freedom was essentially limited to the ability to unilaterally draw other city-states into either a democratic system or a militaristic culture. But how accurately did the notion of Persian enslavement reflect reality? While slavery certainly existed in Persia, particularly among the wealthy nobility, the Persian Empire as a whole did not rely on slave labor as the primary engine of its economy. Workers who erected the magnificent monuments of Persepolis, constructed extensive canals throughout the empire, and built intricate underground irrigation systems were compensated according to their skills and experience. Moreover, Persian rulers generally did not impose their culture or religion on conquered peoples. Often, the Persians acted more as liberators than conquerors, returning people to their lands if a previous ruler had exiled or oppressed them. Cyrus the Great, the empire's founder, earned historical renown for his decree liberating the Jews from Babylonian captivity. This act allowed the Jewish elite to return to their homeland, while Cyrus secured a strategically advantageous loyal buffer state between Persia and Egypt. By the time of the confrontation with the Greeks at Thermopylae, the Persian Empire stretched across vast territories, from northern India to Egypt and Ethiopia. The Persian bureaucracy governed this extensive and diverse realm with astonishing efficiency. As long as the subjugated lands paid their taxes diligently and did not rebel, Persia left them undisturbed, granting considerable autonomy. However, in cases of defiance, punishment was severe and relentless. The era of wars between ancient Greece and the mighty Persian Empire began not with triumphant marches, but with a spark of rebellion ignited in distant Ionia. In 499 BCE, the Greek city-states located on the coast of Asia Minor cast off the Persian yoke and declared a course towards independence and democracy. Athens, as the cradle of liberty, could not stand idly by and extended a helping hand to its brethren, thereby incurring the wrath of the Persian ruler. In response, the Persian king Darius I swore to wipe Athens off the map. His forces invaded Greece but were defeated at the historic Battle of Marathon. However, this defeat did not break Persia, but merely fueled its thirst for revenge. The Greeks understood that a second, even larger invasion would follow the first. This time, Darius's son, Xerxes, led the Persian army. The Hellenes meticulously prepared their defenses, devising a two-pronged strategy. The Athenian fleet was to block the path of Persian ships, preventing them from landing troops behind the Greek army. The Spartans and their allies were to contain the onslaught of the Persian land army in the narrow Thermopylae Pass, so named for its nearby hot springs. The Persian army numbered approximately 200,000 warriors, while the Greek force comprised only 7,000. The vanguard was led by 300 Spartan hoplites, spear-armed warriors. The main Greek forces were expected to arrive later, after the sacred festivals concluded, assuming, of course, that the vanguard could hold out until then. Despite the overwhelming numerical superiority of the Persians, the Greeks chose an ideal defensive location. The narrow pass allowed them to fight in shifts, making the most effective use of their strength. It was the perfect place for forming a phalanx, a tightly packed formation of spear-bristling warriors. Persian archers attacked first, but their arrows proved ineffective against the heavily armored Greek hoplites. Xerxes then sent 2,000 lightly armed, battle-hardened spearmen into the fray, but their wicker shields could not withstand the hoplites' long spears. The Persian army, accustomed to fighting on open plains and in deserts, failed to break the Greek phalanx's defense in the narrow gorge. Xerxes then deployed his elite guard, the Immortals, as the Greeks called them. But even they could not breach the defense. The Greeks were too well armed and held an advantageous position. Despite this, a hidden mountain path bypassed the gorge. The Hellenes knew of its existence, and some of their warriors had been sent to guard this strategically important point. Unfortunately, a traitor among the defenders revealed the secret path to the Persians. Persian warriors undertook a difficult ascent of 1,000 meters, after which, forming a column, they descended upon the unsuspecting guards of the path, catching them off guard in the darkness of night. By morning, the Persians were in the rear of the main Greek forces. The Spartans decided to remain as a rear guard, ensuring the withdrawal of allied troops, and several hundred of their comrades voluntarily shared their fate. Xerxes achieved victory at the cost of immense losses. Thousands of warriors fell, including 2 of his half-brothers. Nevertheless, he continued his invasion of Greece, plundering cities that refused to submit to his authority. He entered Athens and fulfilled his father's long-standing promise, setting the Acropolis ablaze in retaliation for the Ionian revolt. However, Xerxes found the city abandoned by its inhabitants. The Athenian fleet had been evacuated in advance. A month later, this same fleet, demonstrating tactical prowess, lured the Persian ships into the Strait of Salamis and inflicted a crushing defeat upon them, marking a turning point in the war. Subsequently, the combined forces of the Greek city-states, led by the Spartans, delivered a final defeat to the Persian army at Plataea, bringing an end to years of bloodshed. But why is the Greek defeat at Thermopylae so widely known, while the decisive victories at Salamis and Plataea remain in its shadow? The answer lies in the fact that the Battle of Thermopylae played a pivotal role in shaping Greek, and consequently, all of Western culture. For this, we owe one man, Herodotus. Decades after the Greco-Persian Wars, he produced a groundbreaking work, one of the first where history was treated as a result of inquiry rather than a collection of myths. His inspired narrative of the Battle of Thermopylae is the very story we know today. However, it is important to remember that Herodotus had his own agenda. In his Histories, he actively contrasted the Greek world with the Persian East, which he depicted as a realm of emotion, despotism, and blind obedience. In reality, such a simplified dichotomy does not reflect the full diversity of ancient Greece and Persia, as history and human civilizations are always far more complex. This simplified historical perspective proved remarkably convenient for shaping the concept of a global East and West, presented as two poles with incompatible values. This idea persists in narratives of civilizational clashes, even though reality is always far more complex and nuanced. In reality, the historical interaction between Asia and Europe did not merely preserve what is today called Western civilization, it actively contributed to its very formation. The open society of Athens left a profound mark, inspiring subsequent generations of rulers to imitate and adopt its principles. Sparta, in turn, introduced into Western political thought ideas of service to the state, military competence, and universal state education. When Alexander the Great conquered Persia, he was so impressed by the efficiency and sophistication of its bureaucratic system that he decided to adopt it, thereby contributing to the spread of professional bureaucracy and a multicultural, tolerant society. Today's world lives in the era that followed the Battle of Thermopylae. Neither ancient Greece nor Persia, in their pure forms, are reflections of any modern civilization. We are all, to an equal extent, heirs to both.